wherever you may be. Welcome back for another edition of the Seahawks Playbook Podcast. Join your host, Bill Alvstad, and co-host, sports writer and football analyst Keith Myers, as we talk Seahawks football. Seahawks fans, welcome back to another show of the Seahawks Playbook Podcast. I'm your host, Bill Alvstad, sitting down with Keith Myers here after a win against the Texans. Keith, hey, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Like you said, a win against a bad team. These are the ones you can't afford to get tripped up against the bad teams. Granted, they can't afford to get tripped up against anyone anymore. If they want any hope of doing anything, they have to run the table. But these are the games. It was good that this game wasn't close, right? This is a team that you need to put away. And they did that. They went and they got an easy win. So that's what we were looking for, and that's what they did.
Yeah. Hey, I just want to say hey to everybody, too. I missed last week. I had back surgery, just a little thing.
Just a little thing.
Just a little thing kind of put me down a little bit. And then I had to go back into the hospital because I had some sort of blood clot, possibly hematoma thing going on. And they had to solve that. And but now I'm back home and well enough to sit down in a chair and talk. So that's the baseline of where I'm at on the healing process, is I can sit and talk. So so I thought I'd sit and talk with Keith because it's better than sitting and talking to myself about the win.
I hope that sitting and talking to me is better than sitting and talking to yourself. If it wasn't, that would say a lot about me, I think. But anyways, let's talk about some football. So the game didn't start out great.
No, it really didn't. And I was kind of disappointed a little bit in the lack of aggression that our defense showed against a team that was weak. A weak opponent coming out. We could have really kind of used the practice of being aggressive to start a game. But instead, we kind of played some soft zone coverages and so forth, allowed Davis Mills to complete 14 of his first 14 attempts and go down and have a couple scoring drives out of the first 3 drives and put up 10 points. And it just looked like a lethargic defensive outing to begin the day, but the offense was kind of turned on right from the beginning, which was good to see. Rashad Penny had a career day, Keith. We'll talk a lot about that.
Got to get amazing. To that.
Yeah, amazing day. Russell Wilson had back-to-back productive outings, which is great to see. Tyler Lockett was on fire. A lot of good things in this game.
Mm-hmm. A lot of good things in this game. But let's start with the not so good thing, which was the defense. Because I mean, Mills ate him up those first couple of drives. Like you said, 14 out of 14 to start the game. I believe they said during the broadcast that was a record for consecutive completions to start a game by a rookie quarterback. That's not a record that you want to let the opponent set. I mean, you know what I mean? Like this isn't like a Trevor Lawrence or a highly touted rookie. This isn't a situation like when Andrew Luck joined the Colts, where this was a top flight player joining a ready-made playoff team. No, this was a third round pick and on a bad team,
on a team where they openly question his decision-making abilities. Yeah. So
early on.
So you and I, before we pushed record, we were talking about the defense a little bit, and I was just asking you, like, why? Why do you think the defense starts out this way?
Well, that's what it's hard to explain, but I think what we're seeing is a very vanilla look during that opening drive, intentionally to get a feeling for what the opponent wants to do. What's their game?
Don't we already know that based on all the film accumulated of all their games so far this year?
You'd think we would, but I'm not real enamored with our defensive coaching staff. So I don't know, but we saw the same thing against San Francisco, right?
We did exactly the same script and shutout in the second half in both games.
Yeah, and so they basically set it up, and they like, okay, how are they attacking us? What are they doing? What do we do so that we can counteract that? So it's like, okay, what are they? I don't like the idea of spotting another team points in order to figure out what their game plan is.
Yeah, that's weird to me.
Especially when it's not like teams are set and that's the only thing they can do. I mean, sure, the Seahawks
and it's the NFL, Keith. It's the NFL. It's like anything can happen, and any given day, a team can get caught, on fire. Our offense has kind of struggled previously, and so forth. And you just don't give teams opportunities to score on you just because you want to see what they're going to do.
Yeah, and so you come out and you go, "Oh, this is what they're going to do. We know how to stop that." And then, why wouldn't the other? It hadn't happened either the last 2 weeks, but a better team's going to adapt and be like, "Oh, they're taking that away. Let's go do something different." But
nonetheless, we held them to 13 points overall in the entire game. Seahawks improved to like the 5th best defense on points allowed on the season at 20.2 overall.
Which is weird considering they're last in the league in time of possession.
Yeah.
But the defense, so they've been on the field
a ton.
Seattle's defense has been on the field more than any other defense, and yet they're 5th in points allowed.
Which is tremendous.
Yeah. It is.
I mean, it's something to be excited about, actually. In fact, it's something that you would hope could potentially carry over into next season as well. We'll talk about that. But let's talk about the 14 of 14, but then Mills goes 19 of 35 the rest of the way.
Yep.
They don't score in the second half, and the Seahawks, shut them out in the second half, just like they did the 49ers. And they only allowed 5 explosive plays against them, and 3 in the first half and 3 in the second half, and really just had no impact for the most part.
Yeah, I mean and those explosive plays weren't. Then there was a couple that were just like, you can't defend that. It was just like such. It's like one of those catches. This guy's falling out of bounds. And
Brandon Cooks had a good game.
Yeah, he did, and he's a good player who had a good game. And sometimes there are plays you just can't defend, and you just go, well, that sucks. We'll have to get him next time. But that's really, there were a couple of those. It happens. It's how other teams have to feel when you see like that Wilson to Lockett as he's falling out of bounds. Like you can't defend it. There's nothing you could do to defend that play. It's just going to happen. And we had
the game in hand in the second half, and so they really didn't matter anyway. The only other bright spot on the defense, I thought, there was a couple. Darrell Taylor, again, just plays a really solid game, and he would have had 2 sacks in this game. 1 came back because of a penalty, but just really kind of a nice dominating performance. Really a great season for him to build on. It's really nice to see that. Mm-hmm. And the other one is Bobby Wagner, again, 15 tackles. Just unreal.
Yeah, against the 49ers, he was not the leading tackler in that game. Jordan Brooks was. And so it felt like in this game that Wagner was like, no. You go, you sit down. I'm the king here, because he just had a monster game. And that's not to say Brooks didn't play well, because he did. But Wagner's, again, just showing he's like, what is it, a 7-time All-Pro? No, it was a 4-time All-Pro. But he's showing that just how good he is. And he's still the best. So
a couple injuries, Keith. One's really bad. So DJ Reed had a little pectoral type thing. I guess he's going to be okay. He'll be back. Galvin Hellsop is not. He had an operation on his leg while still in Houston, broke his tibia and fibia bones in his leg, and he is shut down. And that's a horrible injury. So
that's
best of luck to recover from that for sure.
Yep.
So
that's unfortunate. He's a guy who's played in a couple of games, up off the practice squad. They didn't, they brought him up and activated him again, and he got some playing time in this one. I thought he showed some real promise, and such a devastating injury, because it's not one that you can't come back from. Bone injuries like that, they heal and you can be fine. But it's the fact that it's both bones, that it's going to be hard. It's just a really long road back for him. And that's unfortunate, because this is a kid that was playing well. And I thought, had a chance to make a mark on the season and prove that he belonged before the offseason of next year.
Yeah, and that, it already decimated defensive back room is further weakened. So it'll be interesting to see what they do there. I was going to say that this was also Pete Carroll's 150th regular season win in NFL history, is ranked 21st overall, on his way to I'm not even going to say probably, on his way to a Hall of Fame career. I think he's tied right now with Bill Cowher overall for like 164 combined playoff and regular season wins and Super Bowl victory, both. And they're Bill Cowher's in the Hall of Fame. So I don't know what would prevent Pete from making it in there. So
yeah, I mean, it's weird to think that he's this high up on the lists and everything when he spent a huge chunk of time in college.
Yes.
With the USC program and a national they won a national championship and and all of that. And it's so much of his career was there, and then he was such a late, coming up to or back to the pros.
58 years old when he came to the Seahawks, right?
Yep,
something like that.
Coming back to the pros, and yet he's still just having this tremendous success. So, and hopefully this is another successful year if they can continue to win and turn this into a winning season.
Well, let's talk about, and we do have a chance. We're going to get to that, but let's talk about Rashad Penny for just a minute. Because I think he needs to be talked about. This is a kid that's really had a hard time since he was drafted. He was drafted in the first round, so he had unreasonable expectations from the very beginning, and struggled right out of the gate with injuries when he had not been injured during his college career for the most part. And up until just yesterday, it just has been in fits and starts, and nothing really put together back to back that made it look like he was going to be anything more than just kind of a one-hit wonder, kind of a back, and kind of a washout here in Seattle, and he was going to go away, and that was it.
Well, we were talking a month ago about, we know he's not part of the future. Let's go ahead and get Johnson up here off the practice squad and just see what he has. Get him some touches, get DJ Dallas in there so we can find out is he a guy that you can depend on going forward, or is he a special teams player? And that's it. And that kind of stuff. And then Penny got healthy, and a healthy Penny is what we thought we were drafting 4 years ago.
Of course.
And
of course, yeah.
You can't watch this game and not just be like, wow, he ran with power, he ran with decisiveness. And then when he got past the first line of defense, he could take it.
He had a burst. He had a real nice burst. I'll tell you though, it's interesting watching him play. If you watch the tape back, just how out of breath, out of shape he is in, just by virtue of not being healthy and just having to constantly work himself back and so forth. He just hasn't had those game reps of running the ball. And so every time he ran those 30-yard plus scampers for touchdowns, man, he was just
he was dying. Yep.
Dying by the time he got into the end zone. It was kind of funny. So he had, what was it, Keith? 137 yards on 16 carries, which is tremendously efficient. Couple touchdowns,
that's
couple
not efficient. That's explosive.
Yeah. Had 5 runs over 9 yards. Just a real nice chunk play day for him. He just really made everything happen for the offense, made Russell Wilson's day even easier just because of the play action that was able to be real effective and so forth, I thought.
Well, and the other thing that I found was interesting looking at that stat line is Alex Collins, who has played, surprisingly well at times. And we know he's a little bit banged up right now, but he ran 7 times, but only for 16 yards. So to give you an idea, I mean, it's not that these were lanes that you could drive a truck down. Penny just ran with power and made some moves and made some people miss and turned nothing into something over and over again. So, I mean, it's just a really impressive day by a guy who, quite frankly, needed it.
I was thinking, and we talked about this, I think, if I remember correctly, Keith, a couple couple of weeks ago where we thought, if Penny does kind of come along a little bit, the team always has the option, even though that they did not sign the 5th-year option for him on his rookie contract because he was a first-round pick. Even though that has now gone away, it doesn't mean the team wouldn't be able to sign him again to a, like a 1-year prove-it deal for, not a veteran minimum, but a little bit over the veteran minimum or whatever, with some, heavily incentive-laden type terms on the deal. I wouldn't be opposed to that. But even if he finishes the year, and even if he finishes the year with another, 2 or 3 100-yard rushing games, I would still be skeptical next year of having Rashad Penny coming back on the roster and expected to be the 1A running back for this team. I think you'd still have to take care of that situation in the offseason.
Oh yeah, you can't have, even if Penny puts together back to back 100-yard games and looks great doing it and all of that, is there anyone on earth that is confident in him staying healthy?
No, and if you combine that with Carson coming back, because he's on a 2-year deal, so he's technically coming back. Those are 2 running backs that you can't depend on. So you'd have to go solve that problem. So regardless of what happens with Penny or Carson this offseason, you got to go take care of that. Let's talk about Tyler Lockett. Just as the body of work now is just getting so big, like he's becoming one of the best receivers in franchise history. There's no doubt about it.
Oh, absolutely. 5 receptions, but for 142 yards.
Yeah, and that 55-yard bomb was just beautiful.
Oh yeah, it was
just another one of those Russell Wilson moon balls.
Yeah, over 28 yards per reception. That's crazy production, and
so he's over 1,000 yards on the season.
Yep,
with 4 games to go. Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yep, he's having a great year. And then there's DK Metcalf, who's been, from a fantasy perspective, very disappointing. But it's not so much him. The offense just is not doing a good job of getting him the ball, and that's some on Wilson, it's some on Waldron, but he's not having the breakout of breakout years that we kind of expected him to have.
Right. Yeah. But at any given day, he can really punish you. And he can do some serious damage. So I think there's still time to have a pretty decent impact on this season if we should go into Los Angeles next Sunday and pull out a win. That it's interesting when you think about where this team's at and what they need to do now. And we talked about it several times when they just had 3 wins and they kept losing. And it is one of those deals where you're mathematically not completely eliminated, but you feel eliminated just because you're just so poor as far as the record and how the performances has gone. Now you've got 2 wins in a row against marginal teams. The 49ers not having a great year. Obviously the Texans are one of the worst teams in the NFL. Take that out of the equation. It's good to rack up 2 wins like this in kind of a dominating fashion. But now it's really on. And like you said earlier in the show, every week now is a must win. It's a playoff week. And this is the biggest game of the year coming up.
So San Francisco, even though we're like, they're not having a great year, they're currently the 6th seed in the playoff standings. And Washington at 6 and 7 is currently the 7th seed. Seattle is 1 game back of Washington, but they also lose the tiebreaker. The bigger problem isn't the 1 game. It's the fact that there is 6 other teams that are between Seattle and a playoff spot. So it's not just that you don't just have to make up 1 game against 1 team. You got to make up 1 game against 6 different teams. And that's why they have to keep winning.
Yes. Well, they can't lose. I mean, if they lose 1 more game, I think they're mathematically eliminated, aren't they?
No, because just none of the teams in front of them keep winning. You know what I mean? Like Seattle's only 1 game back at 5 and 8 because the 6 and 7 is in the playoffs right now. So
Yeah, we'd be having a completely different conversation if there was only 6 seeds this year, but having that 7th seed could be interesting, for that final week where Seattle goes to Arizona and plays the Cardinals. Cardinals are going to have this thing locked up, it looks like, early.
Oh, yep.
And that team may not want to play all of its players, including its quarterback. We may have a shot, in that game. One other player I want to talk about, Keith, and I know that you'll enjoy this, is Jake Curran.
Yes.
And I just kind of wanted to get you to talk about his play on the offensive line, as far as like his run block grade. I noticed his run block grade on Pro Football Focus was 88.4, which is nearly elite.
Oh, it is. That is. They viewed him as being very elite. At right tackle as a run blocker, which was good to see. And actually, there was time when I noticed that, man, the Seahawks are running right a lot. And given that their right guard is a guy known for pass blocking, it's like, they just keep going to the right. But it was working because between Curran at right tackle and Disley at tight end, you got 2 guys that can move people. And I thought he played really well. I mean, he wasn't elite in pass blocking, and I don't know if he's ever going to be, but he was serviceable.
I think he could be. He's one of those
better than Shell's been this year.
Well, I was going to ask you about this going the rest of the season. I don't know what Shell's injury status is, but is there any reason why Jake Curran hasn't earned a starting role on this offensive line going the rest of the year?
I think he has. I think he deserves a spot. I mean, Shell has been battling this shoulder injury, and for the last couple of weeks, what's happened is he's gone out and he's played, and it just gets more and more sore. And by sometime just after halftime, he just doesn't have any strength left in the arm because it hurts that much. And they pull him, and they bring in one of the other kids, but the kids have been outplaying him. Last week it was Forsyth. This week it was Curran. It's good to see that both of those kids have now gotten significant playing time out at right tackle, because one of those 2 is probably going to be the right tackle of the future. My guess is it's probably going to be Curran for the run blocking, and Forsyth is going to be kept as either a swing tackle or get an opportunity to play over on the left side because it's pass blocking. But just to see the fact that both of them have now got a chance to play, and they've both outplayed Shell, I would say you've got to keep playing them. You've got to give Curran the job until he shows he's not ready for it. And so far, he's only showed that he's ready for it. And if he falls, I would go back to Forsyth before I went back to Shell. I mean, he's in the last year of his deal. He hasn't been great. He's gone after this year. And if one of those 2 kids can prove to be your right tackle of the future, that's a bonus. And it's one less thing you have to fix before next season. So I would play those 2 kids as much as possible between now and the end of the year.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. So just a quick preview. I mean, we're going to do another show this week. But what are your thoughts coming up against this Rams team, where the Rams have kind of just been okay. They've been fading a little bit since we played them last time. Seahawks are kind of coming up a little bit. Everything's kind of seemingly coming together for them on defense. And then offensively, Russell Wilson's starting to click. All of a sudden, we've got a running back possibly. And a couple offensive linemen are playing better now. And it seems like the whole thing's kind of starting to turn.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of what we expected to happen. It just happened a week or 2 later than we expected it to happen, right? We knew with Wilson coming back from his injury that at some point things were going to click offensively and that this team was going to go on a run. And they seem to be doing that at this point. It's hard to say that a victory over the Texans is proof that have turned things around because the Texans are that bad. But this wasn't just a victory. They ran the score up, and without even really trying. I mean, they just this was a dominant win, and the week before was a dominant win over San Francisco, and so they're starting to look like one of the better teams in the NFC, which is what we thought they were going to be coming into the year. So what do I expect to see in this game? I don't really know, because Seattle, for all of its growth, still can't cover Cooper Kupp. And I don't think anybody seems to be able to this year. And so that's going to be rough. And they still can't block, that front seven. And, a pass block.
At least at this point.
Yeah.
We'll see what Curran, maybe that makes a little bit of a difference.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's possible. And the thing is that Brown on the other side, after having just an awful start to the year, and probably the first 6 or 7 games, he was really not playing well. You and I both thought he's done. He's showing his age, all that. He's come back and played pretty well the last 3 weeks.
Although Seattle didn't allow any sacks this last game, he did have the lowest Pro Football Focus rating on the offensive line this last week out of all of our offensive linemen. So, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how I feel about this game. One thing I did note earlier today was that Jalen Ramsey and Tyler Higbee ended up on the COVID-19 list. So that they tested positive.
If Jalen Ramsey doesn't play, which if he tested positive, he won't play. Even if he's vaccinated.
Yeah, they tested. There's 34 players in the NFL this week tested positive, and they were 2 on the list.
That's huge, because Jalen Ramsey has been DK Metcalf's kryptonite in previous, last year and earlier this year. And without him, they don't have anyone that can cover him. And so then it's just a matter of, can Seattle get him the ball? If Seattle can get him the ball, he's going to have a monster day. And if they start rotating everyone to cover him, Tyler Lockett's going to have a monster day. Yeah. And they could both have monster days. And so that is huge. I mean, Ramsey's one of, if not the best corner in the NFL right now. And I hate to say that because he's on a rival team, but he is that spot. He is that good. And for him to be out, that's huge. So
do you want to cover anything else today?
The only other thing that I wanted to bring up was back from this other game. We knew coming in that the Texans wanted to run the ball, right? That was kind of their thing. They were going to try and run the ball and control the clock, keep Seattle's offense off the field, do what every other team's been doing, and that's keep time of possession and make it hard that way. And what you end up with is our defense giving up 2.4 yards per carry.
Yeah, I was going to say that Al Woods had one of the best games.
Al Woods had a monster game.
Yeah, he's just playing really well this year. A very underrated player, I think, in Seattle's defense for sure.
So 2.4 yards per carry. He played great, and this was the game in which they lost Brian Monet early, and so their defensive tackle rotation was really thin. You were seeing a lot of Rasheem Green and L.J. Collier playing defensive tackle. They moved Poona Ford over into the 3-tech at times and let Al Woods be the nose tackle at times, and so they kind of rotated those two guys that way. And so it was kind of a mishmash on the interior of the defensive line, and it didn't matter. It worked. Everyone, the linebackers were filling their gaps, and everyone was doing their job. You saw guys coming up and making tackles in the hole, like not just making the tackle, but getting off a block and getting up into the hole to make a tackle. And it's just, some of these things were just great to say. Ryan Neal had 7 tackles, and most of them were up in the running game. And this is a guy that, and
he almost had a pick if Diggs didn't run into him.
Yeah, Diggs is, well, and the thing is, Diggs needs to let him have that because he's in position, and Diggs is basically playing defense.
Yeah, Diggs tried to crawl up his back. I didn't get that. I didn't even understand, because he could. I would have assumed that Diggs wasn't so myopically focused on the ball that he couldn't see his own player standing right there waiting to catch the ball. He just kind of ran up his back.
I don't know, because I don't
weird.
know. I don't know if, I mean, Diggs is coming across, watching the ball. He's not playing.
It's possible he didn't see
it.
It's possible he didn't see him, and
it might also be that he doesn't know where the offensive player is and whether or not someone's going to come up and contest that. So he's going to go up and contest it and then see what happens. But yeah, it was good to see Ryan Neal play well in his first significant playing time as far as starting this year for Jamal Adams, and so just altogether it was a great performance by the defense, but just the run defense especially was I wouldn't want to say it was surprising, but it was great to see.
Yeah. I did hear that Brian Monet was going to be okay. He might not come back this week. We don't know for sure, but it wasn't a serious enough injury where he's out, a long time or has to have surgery or anything like that. It's like a PCL injury on his knee or something. So,
yeah.
Okay, cool. It was good to be back here after not being here last week. I missed not being here, but I appreciate Dan Viennes coming in from the Emerald City Sportscast to fill in, as well as Dana O'Gorman from Archer Football. Those guys have been friends of the show for the duration that we've been together for the last 5 years. So we appreciate that and coming in and filling in and helping Keith out.
Oh yeah,
awesome.
It was great having them here. They filled in admirably. No one can replace you, Bill. I did my best, but the two of them can replace me. I think that became clear that I'm replaceable. And
not true at all.
And so no, but they were great. They were such fantastic guests. So I was very appreciative of them coming on and doing their thing.
They've been on so often that it feels like it's just normal. It's just a natural conversation to have with those guys. There's no nervous tension at all. They just jump in and they're ready to go. And both of them are very knowledgeable and can pretty much carry on a conversation about Seahawks football for hours without any notes. So that's nice to have.
Which is part of the problem, because getting Dan off the air once we start recording, it can be no, I'm just kidding. I'm joking. Dan, don't be mad at me. I was making a joke. No, it was great having them. It's fantastic to have you back. I'm good to see that you're healing up and
thank you,
and not doing too bad with the back surgery. So it's great to have you back here.
Yeah, it's good to be back for sure. So find Keith on Twitter at Myers NFL. I'm at NW Seahawk. The show is at Hawks Playbook. SeahawksPlaybook.com has all of the content. You can find us on your favorite podcast platform and YouTube, and subscribe wherever you find us. And make sure you listen every week, because we put out a couple shows a week, and it's great content. We're here 52 weeks a year. So make sure you're here for it. So until next time, go Hawks.
Seahawks Playbook Podcast listeners, thanks for joining us for another edition of the show. You can find us on Twitter. Bill is at NW Seahawk, Keith is at Myers NFL, and the show is at Hawks Playbook. You can listen and subscribe to the show at SeahawksPlaybook.com.